Corellia sat near the window, watching the red sky of her planet Varela. Outside, children ran, jumped, and played with glowing discs in the open air. Their laughter echoed through the large stone halls of the academy. But Corellia only watched. Her silver wheelchair was quiet, unmoving, as always. She hadn't walked in over 10 years. Born into a proud warrior race called the Velari, Corellia was different. A rare illness at birth had taken away her ability to move her legs. In Velari culture, strength was everything. Weakness was shame. Even her own family treated her like a shadow. They gave her food, shelter, and clothing, but not love. Not friendship. She was ignored, forgotten, left behind. Her eyes burned, not from tears, but from the weight of being powerless. Still, she had learned to survive. She read books, studied technology, and watched every movement of the soldiers who trained outside her window. She memorized combat moves, engine parts, and even weapon designs. She could not fight with her body, but her mind was sharp. One day, something strange happened. A transport ship landed at the academy, sleek, white, and humming with quiet energy. It was not Velari design. It was human. The Earth Union had sent a small peace team to Varela, hoping to build bridges after years of tension. Most Velari leaders weren't happy. They saw humans as soft, emotional, and foolish. But the humans came anyway, bringing medics, engineers, and scientists. Among them was a man named David Holland. David was different. He didn't wear a fancy uniform like the others. He wore dusty clothes and always had tools hanging from his belt. He had a kind smile, but eyes that looked tired, like he had seen too much war. While others gave speeches, David explored the academy's old labs and broken machines. He wanted to fix things. On his third day, he passed by Corellia's window. She sat there as always, silent. Most guests didn't even look at her, but David stopped. He stared at her for a moment. Then, without a word, he walked up to her. "You look bored," he said softly. Corellia blinked, surprised. No one ever spoke to her like that. "I'm used to it," she replied. David smiled. "You've got the eyes of someone smarter than everyone here." That made her curious. "You don't know me." "No," he said. "But I see things. I used to be in a chair like that too." Her eyes widened. "You?" He nodded. "A long time ago, lost my legs in a war. Got new ones made of steel and wires. Now I walk like anyone else, sometimes better." Corellia leaned forward slightly. "You're lying." David pulled up his pants leg and knocked on the metal underneath. The sound was real. Her heart skipped. This man had done what no one on her planet believed was possible. "Would you like to walk?" he asked. Corellia's lips trembled. "Of course I would, but no one here will help. They say it's fate." "Fate's just a word people use when they stop trying," David said. "But I don't stop." For the first time in years, Corellia felt a spark inside her chest, something warm, something dangerous. It was hope. That evening, David returned with a small scanning device. He told her to sit still as he gently moved the scanner over her legs, her spine, and her nervous system. "Your muscles are weak, yes," he said. "But your nerves are still alive. That's enough." Corellia looked at him with cautious eyes. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I know what it's like to be left behind," he replied. "And because I think you can be more than anyone ever believed." She wanted to believe him. She wanted to stand, to run, to fight like her ancestors. But fear held her back. What if he failed? What if it hurt? What if this was just another dream waiting to break? Still, she nodded. "Okay," she whispered. "Help me walk." David smiled. "Then let's build you some legs." But unknown to both of them, someone in the academy had seen the scan. Someone who didn't want Corellia to rise. And that someone had already started spreading whispers. Kier Eli, didn't sleep that night. She lay in her cold room, staring at the ceiling, her hands clenched tightly on the arms of her wheelchair. David's words echoed in her head. Let's build you some legs. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Not her teachers, not her family, not even the doctors. For the first time, someone had looked at her and not seen weakness. He had seen possibility. At sunrise, she found a note stuck under her door. Meet me in Lab 17. Be careful. Lab 17 had been closed for years. The academy called it unsafe, but everyone knew it was just forgotten, dusty, dark, filled with old machines no one used anymore. Corellia wheeled herself down quiet halls, her heart pounding. She passed other students and teachers, but no one noticed her. As always, she was invisible. A ghost. When she reached the door to Lab 17, it creaked open before she could knock. David stood there, holding a wrench in one hand, his shirt dirty with grease. Good, he said with a smile. You came. Inside, the lab was filled with strange tools, both human and Valari tech, scattered across tables. On a large screen was a glowing blueprint, a pair of sleek mechanical legs. They weren't bulky like old war models. These were fast, light, and curved like the legs of a predator. They're beautiful. Corellia whispered. They're yours. David said, I've been working on this design for years, but no one ever trusted me enough to let me try. Why me? She asked, eyes narrowed. David paused. Because I think you're meant to change this world. Corellia looked away. I'm just a girl in a chair. No, David said firmly. You're a warrior trapped in a broken frame. I want to give you a new one. She turned back to him slowly. What do you need me to do? Trust me, he said, and promise me you won't tell anyone. Not yet. What we're doing, it's not exactly allowed. Her heart thumped. Why? Your leaders don't want human tech touching your sacred bloodlines. They think it's corruption, but I think it's evolution. Corellia nodded. Then let's evolve. For the next few days, they worked in secret. Every night, after everyone slept, Corellia would roll down to the hidden lab. David scanned her again and again, adjusting the leg design with each result. They talked while he worked about Earth, about Valari war history, about dreams and fears. Corellia learned that David had lost his legs in a battle on Mars during a human civil war. He had been a soldier, then an engineer. The army fixed him with old-style cybernetics, but he improved them himself. Bit by bit, he built legs that felt more like wings. I didn't just learn to walk again, David said once. I learned to run. Now I want that for you. Corellia started to feel something she hadn't felt in years. Hope, but she also felt fear. What if it didn't work? What if she failed? One night, while David connected wires to the leg frame, a strange noise came from the hallway. Click. The door opened a few inches. David had quickly shut off the lights. In the dark, they held their breath. Footsteps. Then silence. Corellia whispered, Was that? David nodded. Someone's watching us. They stayed silent for a while, hidden in shadows, until the footsteps faded. Then David looked her in the eyes. This changes everything, he said. If they find out, they'll stop us. Maybe. Worse. Then we work faster, Corellia said with surprising strength. David smiled. You really are Valari. She didn't answer, but her eyes burned with quiet fire. Later that night, after she returned to her room, Corellia found something strange under her bed, a small blinking device. A tracker. Someone was spying on her. Someone knew, but instead of fear, she felt something different now. Anger. They had kept her locked in this chair for over a decade. Now that she had a chance to rise, they wanted to stop her? No. Not this time, not ever again. The sky over Varela turned purple the next morning, an omen of storms. But the real storm was already brewing underground. In the shadows of Lab 17. Kier, ELLIA, wheeled herself into the lab just as David tightened the last bolt on the robotic leg. Frame. Sparks flew from his gloves as he tested the energy core. She had never seen him look so serious. His cheerful smile was gone. His face was tight, his voice low. "They know," he said. Kier, ELLIA froze. "You're sure?" David nodded. "Someone placed a surveillance bug inside your room. I disabled it. But that means someone suspects what we're doing." Corellia's hands trembled on the arms of her chair. "Are we going to stop?" David looked at her, his human eyes burning with quiet fire. "Do you want to stop?" She shook her head hard. "Never," David grinned. "Then we finish what we started." That day, everything changed. David locked the doors from inside. He rerouted power from the main grid to hide their work. The lab felt different now. Less like a place of science, more like a bunker. A secret forge where something powerful was being born. He called the project Prometheus. It wasn't just a pair of legs, it was a revolution. A blend of human technology and Velari biology. The legs were sleek, black with faint blue veins of plasma energy. Fast, light, silent. Built to run, leap, and even fight. Corellia watched as David installed soft neural pads, tiny sensors that would connect directly to her mind. He explained everything in simple terms. You think, and they move. No buttons, no delay, like they're part of you. Corellia's heart beat faster. She had imagined walking for so long. But never like this. But even as the excitement grew, so did the danger. Late that night, as David rechecked the implants, the power flickered. Then the lights went out just for 3 seconds. But it was enough. Corellia looked at him. What was that? David stared at the control panel. Power surge. Someone's trying to tap into our feed. He rushed to the wall and opened a hidden breaker box. Sparks danced around his fingers as he ripped out 2 small blinking chips. Surveillance drones. Someone's trying to record us. Who? Corellia whispered. David took a deep breath. General Mornith. One of the Academy's top commanders. He leads the Purity Watch. He's always hated human tech. Then why would he spy on me? Because you're becoming dangerous, David said. And people like him fear change. That word dangerous stayed in her mind. Was she really dangerous? To those who kept her in chains. Yes, that night, she couldn't sleep. She stared at her old wheelchair. Cold metal. Silent wheels. It had been her prison for 10 years. Now lying next to her bed were legs. Her new legs. She touched them gently. They were warm from testing. Real. Alive with light. The next morning, David brought in a full-body harness. It's time to connect them. Corellia swallowed her fear. Will it hurt? Only for a moment, he said. He placed the harness on her back and carefully guided the leg units to attach around her hips and thighs. The click of metal locking into bone sent shivers down her spine. A low hum filled the air. Then, silence. Corellia. Sat still, afraid to breathe. Now, David whispered. Think about standing. She closed her eyes. 1 second. 2. And then movement. Her legs twitched. Not the robotic parts. Her muscles. She gasped. Again, this time. Her legs lifted an inch off the seat. She stood, wobbling, shaking. But she stood. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I'm standing. David's voice was low. Yes, you are. Suddenly, a sharp beep rang through the lab. David spun around to the terminal. His face went pale. We've been found. Corellia turned. What? He showed her the screen. A message blinked. Facility breach. Incoming squad. They're sending soldiers to shut us down, he said. Kier, ELLIA clenched her fists. They'll take the legs. Lock me away. Maybe kill you, David nodded. Unless we run, now. Without another word, Corellia stepped forward. Her balance was shaky. Each step was like walking through fire and thunder, but she kept going, toward the back of the lab, where a hidden tunnel led to the wild lands. They had 10 minutes before the squad arrived. 10 minutes. To change everything. The alarm kept screaming. Red. Lights flashed across the lab walls, turning David's face into a blur of shadows. Corellia stood on her new legs, trembling but upright. Her breathing was fast, uneven, but her eyes were locked on the tunnel ahead. "We don't have time," David said, throwing a backpack over his shoulder. "They'll blast this place. Open in minutes." Corellia looked down at her feet. She had dreamed of this moment for 10 years. And now, no time to celebrate, no time to cry, only time to move. She took one step, then another. Her legs felt strange, like walking. Unlightning. Her body was learning, adjusting. She stumbled, nearly fell, but David caught her. "You're doing great," he said quickly. "Just follow me. If you fall, I carry you. We survive, together." Corellia didn't answer. She just nodded and pushed forward. They ran, through the hidden tunnel behind the lab, a narrow corridor carved into the stone. It smelled of dust and oil. Pipes hissed. Water dripped from the ceiling. Somewhere far behind them, metal doors exploded as soldiers stormed the lab. Corellia's new legs clicked and whirred with each step. At first, she moved like a newborn animal, wobbly and slow. But then something changed. The legs started syncing with her mind. Her balance improved. Her steps became faster, stronger, smoother. She wasn't running like a human or like a Velari. She was running like something new. David looked back once and smiled. "You're getting the hang of it." "I don't want to stop," Corellia said. "Ever." They reached a split in the tunnel. One path led to the surface. The other led deeper into the mountains, toward an abandoned mining field. "Which way?" she asked. David didn't hesitate. "We go deeper. The surface is a trap." They turned left and vanished into the shadows. Behind them, boots slammed down the stone floor. Shouts echoed. The soldiers had found the tunnel. Time was running out. As they moved deeper, Corellia's vision adjusted to the dark. Her legs made no sound now. Silent, smooth, fast. She was no longer just escaping. She was hunting for her future. But suddenly, boom, the wall behind them exploded. A squad of armored Velari soldiers stormed through, weapons raised. "There they are." David pushed Corellia behind a support beam. "Keep moving. Don't stop for me." "No," she shouted, but he was already tossing a small sphere down the tunnel. Boom! A wall of smoke and sparks filled the air. The tunnel collapsed halfway, giving them just enough cover to disappear into the old mining shaft. They kept running. The air grew colder, the tunnels narrowed. Corellia's muscles ached. Her skin was slick with sweat. But she refused to stop. Finally, they reached a locked metal hatch. David smashed a code into the keypad. It didn't work. Old codes systems. "Frozen," he growled. Corellia stepped forward. "Let me." "What?" She knelt fast, smooth, and ripped open the control panel with her robotic hands. Tiny wires sparked. She stared at them for 2 seconds. Then she did something she'd only read about. She rewired the gate manually, cross-connecting the old power lines. The hatch hissed open. David blinked. "How did you?" "I studied," she said, walking. Through the doorway, behind them, more footsteps. More shouts. They ran again, this time into the open. Outside, the wild lands of Varela stretched wide. Sharp rocks, crimson skies. Storm clouds forming above. But they were free. For now. David stopped to catch his breath. "We'll need shelter. We can't go back. Not yet." Corellia looked out across the horizon. She felt wind on her face. She felt the earth under her feet. Her feet. She turned to him. "Let them chase me. Let them call me cursed. I won't go back to that chair." He nodded slowly. Then we keep going. We find others, people who want change. Maybe this escape is the beginning of something big." Corellia smiled. "Not out of joy but determination. They wanted to bury me," she whispered. "But they didn't know I was a seed." The storm had arrived. Dark clouds covered the Varellan sky, rumbling with thunder and lightning that flashed like fire across the horizon. Rain fell like sharp needles onto the rocks. Somewhere far behind them, soldiers searched the tunnels. But Corellia and David were long gone. They had found shelter in a broken watchtower, left behind after the last planetary war. Its walls were cracked. The roof was half missing. But for now, it was home. Corellia stood near the edge of the platform, the wind rushing through her white hair. Her hands gripped the railing as she looked down at her legs. They were still glowing, softly humming. Even now, she couldn't believe it. For over 10 years, she had been trapped in a chair. She had forgotten what it felt like to stand tall, to balance on her own, to move without begging for help. But now, she had legs, not just legs freedom. David sat nearby, wrapping a bandage around a small cut on his hand. He watched her carefully. "You've walked. You've run. But now it's time for the real test." Corellia turned. "What test?" He stood up, pulled a cloth off a small case, and opened it. Inside was a black round disc with glowing edges. A combat drone. Deactivated. Waiting, Corellia's breath caught. "A fighter drone?" David nodded. "This is the same model used to train elite warriors on Earth. It doesn't hold back. If you can dodge it, strike it, outthink it, then you're not just walking, you're fighting." She looked down at her legs. They were strong, but she was still learning. "What if I fail? Then we shut it down. But if you win, no one can ever call you helpless again." Silence fell. Then, without a word, Corellia stepped into the center of the platform. David pressed a button. The drone lit up with a quiet hum and rose into the air. It hovered for a second, scanned her body, then moved like lightning straight at her. She jumped. Not a stumble. Not a fall. A perfect jump. The drone turned and came again, spinning. She ducked, rolled, landed on both feet. The legs responded like they were part of her own body. No delay, no pain, just movement. The drone shot a stun pulse. She dodged left, then spun forward, using her momentum to flip over the device. David's eyes widened. "She's learning faster than I did." Corellia grabbed a loose pipe from the floor and slammed it across the drone's side. Sparks flew. The machine twitched, tried to correct, but she was already behind it. One more hit, and it fell to the ground. Dead. Silence. Only the storm outside made noise now. Corellia stood still, breathing hard, eyes locked on the smoking wreck of the drone. She looked down at her hands. Her arms shook, not from fear, but from energy. She was alive, truly alive. David walked over, stunned. "You didn't just pass the test, you broke it." Corellia didn't answer. She walked to the edge of the tower again and looked out at the dark skies. "Do you feel it?" she asked. "Feel what?" "The shift," she whispered. "Something has changed, in me, in the world. I'm not who I was yesterday." David stepped beside her. "You're not just walking, Corellia. You're rising." She nodded slowly. "They built this world to keep people like me small," she said. "Quiet, obedient. But now I have legs built by a man they called weak, and power they can't control." David smiled. "So what happens now?" Corellia stared into the storm. "Now," she said, "I stop running." Her voice was steady, calm, but her eyes were wild with fire. Far below the tower, something moved. Soldiers, tracking drones, VAI banners, flapping in the rain. The enemy had found them. David reached for his tools. "We have to go." But Corellia didn't move. She stepped forward and took her first step, not as a girl who had once been broken, but as a warrior. The storm had not stopped. Rain hammered the cracked roof of the broken tower. Wind howled like a beast. and thunder roared across the Varellan skies. But none of that mattered, because something far more powerful than any storm had awakened. Kir ell. I dot down below. 7 armored Valari soldiers marched through the mud, rifles humming with electric charge. Behind them, 2 tracking drones hovered, scanning the area with bright red beams. They had orders: retrieve the prototype tech, capture the human engineer, and if necessary eliminate the girl. From the top of the tower, David watched them approach, tightening the straps of his satchel. "We can still escape through the back trail," he said. "If we move now, we'll have a head start." Corellia didn't answer. She stepped out from the shadows, rain pouring over her body, soaking her clothes. The robotic legs glowed beneath her long coat. Her eyes were locked on the enemy. David looked at her. "What are you doing?" She didn't turn. "They came to drag me back into the chair. I'm not going back." "You'll die if you stay." "I died every day I sat in that wheelchair while they looked away," she said, her voice like steel. "But today, I return, as something they can't ignore." Before he could stop her, she leapt from the platform. Not fell, leapt. 10 meters straight down. She landed in front of the soldiers with a ground-cracking thud. Dust and rain sprayed in all directions. Her coat flew behind her like wings. The soldiers stopped, shocked. "It's her," one of them said. "No way. She's standing?" The commander stepped forward. "Corellia of House Varnax. You are in possession of illegal technology and accused of treason. Surrender now." She raised her head. "For 10 years, I waited for help that never came. You all turned away. So I turned into something stronger." The commander raised his weapon. "Last warning," she moved, faster than any of them could track. In 1 second, she was behind the first soldier. Her elbow struck his neck, and he fell unconscious. The second aimed, she spun low, kicked his legs out, then launched herself into the air, and brought her heel down onto his chest. His armor cracked. He didn't get up. The third fired too late. She grabbed a fallen rifle and blocked the pulse. Then she used the butt of the weapon to break his mask. 3 down, 4 left. David stood on the tower, stunned. She's not just fighting. She's dancing. The 4th soldier tried to flank her. She used her new legs to wall jump off the tower base and land behind him. 1 strike. Out cold. The drones locked on. Corellia leapt again, flipped midair, kicked one out of the sky, and grabbed the other with her bare hands. It sparked, twisted, and died in her grip. Now only 2 enemies remained. They backed away, shaking. "We can't fight her. She's not normal," one whispered. "She's not Valari," the other said. "She's something else." Corellia walked toward them slowly, rain dripping off her face, eyes glowing with energy. "I'm not your weakness," she said. "I'm your future." The 2 dropped their weapons and ran. And just like that, the fight was over. The storm began to fade. David came down slowly, eyes wide with disbelief. He stepped over the unconscious soldiers and walked to her. "You just defeated a trained squad, alone." She looked at him calmly. "No, we did this," David chuckled. "You're not the girl I met in that chair," Corellia smiled. "No, she never made it out of that academy." She looked around at the fallen soldiers. The message was clear. If the Purity Watch still wanted to stop her, they'd need more than weapons. They'd need a new reason. The news spread faster than fire. A girl who couldn't walk had taken down an entire elite squad. An outcast had returned, not as a victim, but as a warrior. A forgotten name was now being whispered across Varela. With fear and awe. Kir ell. Once hidden in shadows, she now stood in the open, strong, proud, free, but freedom came with a price. David patched up the tower. Corellia sat by a broken window, watching a Varellan news drone pass overhead. Even without sound, the message was clear. Her image was already being broadcasted. Her glowing legs, the fight, her name. "They'll call me dangerous," she said quietly. David placed a hand on her shoulder. They already do. But they're too late. The world has already changed. In the days that followed, something unexpected happened. Not more soldiers, not more attacks, but messages. First, a young Valari born with a twisted spine sent a letter. I want to walk like you. Then a message from a human girl on a nearby moon colony. They said aliens were scary. But you give me courage. Then 1,000 more. From children, from elders, from other forgotten ones. They didn't see Corellia as a threat. They saw her as hope. David leaned back, watching. The messages come in on his datapad. I think it's time we stop hiding. Corellia nodded. No more towers. No more tunnels. So they returned, not in secret, but in daylight. To the academy that once ignored her. To the leaders, who once pitied her. She walked through the grand hall, alone, no chair beneath her. No fear in her step. The High Council watched silently as she entered. General Mornith stood up, eyes cold. You stole from us. You brought forbidden human tech onto sacred soil. You defied your bloodline. I didn't steal anything, Corellia said calmly. I earned this. She turned, let them see the legs, the scars, the truth. I'm still Valari. I still bleed like you. But I chose to stand when you let me rot. Whispers filled the chamber. Mornith slammed his fist. You're a symbol of corruption. No, another voice said. It was Elder Riva, the oldest on the council. She stepped forward, slowly, her cane tapping the stone floor. She is a symbol of evolution, Riva said. You feared the mixing of blood and machines, but fear has never built the future. She turned to Corellia. What do you want, child? Corellia took a breath. I don't want revenge, I want change. I want every child who's been told they're broken to know they can rise. I want humans and Valari to build together, not behind closed doors, but in the open. The council was silent. Then Riva did something no one expected. She bowed slowly, deeply to Corellia. One by one, others followed. Even Mornith, though his eyes burned with quiet rage. That night, across Virella, her face was on every screen. Not as a fugitive, but as a hero. Her story was taught in schools. Her blueprints were shared across colonies, and her name was etched into the Wall of Honor, the first ever to be placed there while still alive. Not Corellia of House Varnax, not the crippled girl, but simply Corellia, the first to rise. Years later, a young girl born without legs visited the academy. She looked up at the bronze statue in the garden, a tall figure with glowing legs and windswept hair. The girl touched the nameplate and smiled. A voice behind her said, "You know who that is?" The girl nodded. She was like me. The voice replied, "No, she was like all of us. She just stood first."